The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as Ambassador Zorlak, a towering insectoid with iridescent exoskeleton, activated the holographic display. The three-dimensional image of a planet materialized in the center of the room, a nightmarish sphere of churning storms, volcanic eruptions, and electromagnetic disturbances that made the projection itself unstable. Gentle beings of the Council, Zorlak's mandibles clicked as he spoke. This is Nexus 9, recently classified as a Class 15 planet. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Even the most seasoned diplomats shifted uncomfortably in their seats. For those unfamiliar with our universal planetary classification system, continued Zorlak, planets are rated from Class 1, paradise worlds requiring minimal adaptation, to Class 15, environments so hostile that no known sentient species can survive on them without complete environmental isolation. Ambassador Trelia, representing the Aquarian Federation, raised a webbed hand. Why bring this death trap to our attention, Ambassador? Class 15 planets are catalogued and avoided, as they should be. Zorlak's compound eyes gleamed. Because, esteemed colleagues, our long-range scans have detected massive deposits of Quantium-40 beneath the surface. The chamber erupted. Quantium-40 was the rarest element in known space, essential for next-generation FTL drives. The current shortage had brought interstellar expansion to a near standstill and threatened a recession across multiple sectors. "Order!" demanded High Counselor Vex, his crystalline form pulsing with blue light. "Ambassador Zorlak, continue." The High. "Deposits on Nexus 9 could supply our combined civilizations for centuries," Zorlak explained. "However, our automated mining drones cannot withstand the conditions. The gravity fluctuates between 2.8 and 3.5 times galactic standard. The atmosphere is primarily chlorine and sulfur compounds. Surface temperatures range from 120 to +480 degrees Celsius, depending on location and time of day. And that's before we discuss the radiation levels." High Counselor Vex's light dimmed slightly. "You present us with an impossible situation, Ambassador. No species can function in such conditions." "Actually," a voice called from the back of the chamber, "we can." All eyes turned to the human delegation. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood, her small frame almost comical next to the massive aliens surrounding her. Humans were among the newest members of the Galactic Council, admitted less than a decade ago, and still viewed with a mixture of curiosity and condescension. "Excuse me?" Zorlak's antennae twitched in what humans had learned was the insectoid equivalent of raised eyebrows. "With proper preparation and equipment, humans can operate on Nexus 9, Chen stated confidently. Laughter erupted across the chamber, the gurgling chuckles of the aquatic species, the high-pitched trills of the avians, the resonant vibrations of the crystalline beings. "Ambassador Chen," Vex said, his tone gentle as if addressing a child, "I appreciate your enthusiasm, but you misunderstand. Class 15 planets are not merely uncomfortable. They are lethal. Even our most advanced environmental suits would fail within minutes." Chen smiled. "With all due respect, High Counselor, humans have a long history of surviving where we shouldn't. Our homeworld, while not a Class 15, has regions that approach Class 12 conditions. We've developed technologies specifically for extreme environments." "Impossible," huffed Ambassador Grohl of the Taurian hegemony. "Your species is among the most physically fragile in the Council." Chen tapped her communication device. "With your permission, I'd like to introduce Captain Elena Rodriguez of the Earth Special Environments Corps." The doors at the rear of the chamber slid open, and a woman in a crisp military uniform strode in. Captain Rodriguez had the weathered look of someone who had seen too much sun and too little sleep. A network of faint scars crossed her dark skin, evidence of a life spent in dangerous places. Captain Rodriguez has led expeditions to the methane seas of Titan, the crushing depths of Venus's atmosphere, and the radioactive zones of post-war Mars, Chen explained. Her team specializes in the impossible. Rodriguez stepped forward, her posture military straight. "Counselors, I've reviewed the preliminary data on Nexus 9. It's extreme but not beyond our capabilities. My team can establish a base camp and begin extraction operations within 3 standard weeks." "You would die before reaching the surface," exclaimed Trelia. Rodriguez's expression didn't change. "We've designed specialized landing craft and environmental suits for conditions even more extreme than Nexus 9. Humans have been adapting to hostile environments since before we discovered fire." High Counselor Vex leaned forward, his crystalline structure catching the light. "Captain, while I admire your confidence, I cannot in good conscience authorize a mission that would result in the loss of sentient life." "Then authorize a preliminary survey," Rodriguez countered. "My team, my risk. If we fail, the Council has lost nothing. If we succeed, you get your Quantium 40. A tense silence fell over the chamber as the Council members exchanged glances. "This is absurd," Grohl finally said. "Let them try if they insist. When they fail, perhaps the rest of humanity will learn its proper place in the galactic order." Chen's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, but her diplomatic training held. "We accept those terms." High Counselor Vex's light pulsed in what humans had come to recognize as a sigh. "Very well. The Council provisionally authorizes a human expedition to Nexus 9, with the understanding that the Galactic Council bears no responsibility for the outcome." As the session adjourned, Ambassador Zorlak approached Rodriguez. "Captain, I meant, no offense, but you must understand, no species has ever survived direct contact with a Class 15 environment." Rodriguez smiled thinly. "There's a first time for everything, Ambassador." Later, aboard the human diplomatic vessel, Chen confronted Rodriguez in the privacy of the conference room. "That was quite a show you put on, Captain. Can your team really handle Nexus 9? Rodriguez pulled up a holographic display of her own, showing schematics for equipment unlike anything Chen had seen before. "We've been developing these systems since we first learned about the classification system. Earth itself has environments that would qualify as Class 11 or 12 in isolated areas. Humans have summited Mount Everest without oxygen, dived to the Mariana Trench, and survived in the vacuum of space. But Class 15, Chen began, is just another challenge," Rodriguez finished. "My team includes the best extreme environment specialists Earth has produced. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, who pioneered our radiation shielding technology. Major Jackson Williams, who holds the record for longest survival in the Venusian atmosphere. Dr. Fatima Al-Zarani, whose bio-augmentation systems have allowed humans to function in environments we never evolved for." She switched the display to show her team, 12 men and women with the same weathered look as Rodriguez herself. "These people live for the impossible, Ambassador, and more importantly, they understand what's at stake. If we can extract that Quantium 40, humanity's position in the Council will be secured for generations." Chen studied the captain's face. "They're all underestimating us, aren't they?" Rodriguez's lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "They always do, Ambassador. They always do." As Chen left, Rodriguez turned back to the holographic image of Nexus 9, its swirling storms and erupting volcanoes casting an ominous red glow across her face. For any other species, it was a death sentence. For her team, it was Tuesday. "Class 15, she murmured to herself. "Let's show them what humans can do." "Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm curious, where are you listening to this story from? Let me know in the comments. If you're enjoying it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and drop that like. Let's continue with our story. The hangar bay of the UES Pathfinder hummed with activity as Captain Rodriguez's team made their final preparations. The ship hung in high orbit around Nexus 9, maintaining a safe distance from the electromagnetic storms that would fry standard electronics. Through the massive viewport, the planet looked like an artist's rendition of hell, swirling red clouds occasionally split by lightning that could power a small city. "Final equipment check," Rodriguez called out, her voice carrying across the bay. "I want triple redundancies on all systems." Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, a compact man with meticulous movements, ran his hands over the exosuit he'd designed specifically for this mission. At first glance, it resembled standard space armor, but the similarities ended there. The outer shell was composed of a ceramic metallic composite that could withstand temperatures from near absolute zero to over 500 degrees Celsius. Beneath that lay a network of cooling systems, pressure regulators, and radiation shields. Radiation. Dampeners at 98% efficiency, he reported, not looking up from his diagnostics tablet. The new graphene boron lattice is performing better than expected. Across the bay, Major Jackson Williams was inspecting the landing craft, a squat, ugly vehicle that looked more like a tank than a spacecraft. Its hull was reinforced to withstand the crushing gravity and atmospheric pressure of Nexus 9. Gravitic compensators online, he called out. Atmospheric scrubbers primed. Dr. Fatima Al-Zahrani, her dark hair pulled back in a severe bun, was administering final injections to each team member. Radiation prophylaxis and environmental adaptation compounds are at optimal levels, she announced. Remember, these will help, but they're not magic. Stay in your suits. Rodriguez nodded, surveying her team with a critical eye. 12 specialists, each the best in their field, and each carrying enough equipment to establish a functional base on what was essentially a planetary death trap. The stakes couldn't be higher. A chime sounded, and a holographic screen materialized near the hangar entrance. Ambassador Chen's face appeared, looking uncharacteristically concerned. Captain, the observation vessel from the Galactic Council has arrived. They're requesting permission to broadcast your mission. Rodriguez frowned. They want to watch us die. Chen's diplomatic mask slipped for just a moment. Several council members have expressed that this will be a valuable learning experience regardless of outcome. How you mean they want to study our failure? Dr. Al-Zahrani said flatly. Let them watch, Rodriguez decided after a moment. Activate all external cameras on the suits and lander. I want them to see everything. Chen nodded. Good luck, Captain. Hearth is watching too. As the communication ended, Rodriguez gathered her team for a final briefing. The holographic display in the center of their circle showed detailed scans of their landing zone, a relatively stable plateau near one of the Quantium-40 deposits. Listen up. This isn't like any environment we've trained for. The gravity will hit you like a truck even with the compensators. The atmosphere is toxic enough to dissolve standard equipment in minutes. The temperature fluctuations can crack armor if you're not careful. She looked each team member in the eye. But we've prepared for this, we've trained for the impossible, and most importantly, we're humans. We adapt, we survive, we thrive where others can't. Major Williams grinned. Just another day at the office, Cap. Exactly, Rodriguez nodded. Now suit up, we drop in 30 minutes. Aboard the Galactic Council observation vessel, representatives from a dozen species gathered around the main viewing screen. The ship maintained a safe distance from Nexus 9, using advanced sensors to observe the human expedition. This is madness, Ambassador Trelia said, her fins rippling with agitation. They cannot possibly survive the descent, let alone the surface conditions. Ambassador Zorlak's compound eyes reflected the swirling storms of the planet below. Perhaps, but I find their determination fascinating. Determination does not alter physics, scoffed Grohl. Their landing craft will be crushed like an egg. Hi. Councillor Vex, who had insisted on observing personally, remained silent, his crystalline form pulsing with a thoughtful blue light. The main screen activated, showing multiple camera feeds from the human vessel. The landing craft was being moved into position, its ungainly form belying the advanced technology within. They're actually going through with it, murmured an avian representative, her feathers standing on end. Of course they are, Grohl rumbled. Humans lack the capacity to recognize their limitations. The feeds showed the team entering the craft, each wearing what looked to the aliens like impossibly bulky armor. The craft's bay doors closed, and a countdown began. Launch sequence initiated, came Rodriguez's voice over the comm. Pathfinder, we are go for drop. The observation vessel's sensors recorded the moment the landing craft detached from the human ship and began its descent toward the hellish planet below. Their trajectory is optimal, noted Zorlak, surprise evident in his clicking speech. They've calculated for the atmospheric turbulence. The craft plunged into the upper atmosphere of Nexus 9, and immediately the external cameras showed the violence of entry. The vessel shook violently as it was buffeted by winds exceeding 500 kilometers per hour. The heat shields glowed white-hot as they encountered the corrosive atmosphere. Inside the craft, The humans were being thrown against their restraints despite the inertial dampeners. The camera feeds showed their faces contorted with effort, but remarkably none showed fear. "Hull temperature approaching critical," reported Dr. Tanaka, his voice strained but steady. "Compensating," Williams responded, his hands flying over. "The controls. Adjusting entry angle by 3 degrees. The craft lurched sickeningly, then stabilized somewhat. Atmospheric composition is even worse than predicted," Al-Zarani noted, studying her readings. "Chlorine levels at 32%, sulfur compounds at 28%. Acidity would dissolve standard materials in seconds." Rodriguez's face was a mask of concentration. "Outer hull holding. Prepare for gravity transition in 3, 2, 1. The craft suddenly seemed to drop like a stone, and every human on board grunted as their weight effectively tripled. The restraints creaked ominously, and warning lights flashed across every console. "Gravitic compensators at maximum," Williams shouted over the roar of the atmosphere outside. "We're still experiencing 2.2 times Earth normal." "We can handle it," Rodriguez gritted out. "Maintain course." In the observation vessel, the alien representatives watched in stunned silence. By all their calculations, the human craft should have been crushed or torn apart by now. "Impossible," whispered Trelia. "Their technology shouldn't be capable of this." "It's not just their technology," Vex said, breaking his silence. "Look at them. Their bodies are enduring forces that would kill most species instantly." The descent continued, each moment bringing new crises. Lightning struck the craft twice, temporarily disabling some systems. The hull integrity alarms blared continuously as the corrosive atmosphere began to eat through the outer layers. "We're losing the primary heat shield," Tanaka reported, his fingers dancing across his console to reroute systems. "Secondary shields engaging," Rodriguez responded calmly, as if they were discussing the weather. "Prepare for manual landing. Autopilot is compromised." Williams took the controls, his enhanced muscles straining against the crushing gravity. "I've got this, Cap. Just like landing in the Venusian highlands, but with better scenery." Somehow he managed a grim smile, and a few team members actually chuckled despite their situation. The craft broke through the lower cloud layer, and for the first time, the surface of Nexus 9 became visible. It was a landscape of nightmares, jagged, obsidian rocks, lakes of what appeared to be liquid metal, and geysers of superheated gas erupting at random intervals. The ground itself seemed to shift and flow in places, suggesting tectonic instability. "There's our landing zone," Rodriguez pointed to a relatively flat plateau. "Put us down there, Major." "Aye, Captain. Brace for final approach." The craft's engines roared as Williams fought against the gravity and crosswinds to position them over the landing zone. The hull creaked ominously, sections of the outer layer visibly dissolving under the atmospheric assault. "We're losing structural integrity," Tanaka warned. "We have minutes, not hours." "That's all we need," Rodriguez assured him. "Everyone, prepare for immediate deployment upon landing. The craft won't last long in these conditions." With a bone-jarring impact, the lander touched down on the surface of Nexus 9. The landing struts compressed to their limits, and for a heart-stopping moment, it seemed they might collapse. Then they held, and a collective breath was released. "We're down," Williams announced, disbelief coloring his voice. "We actually made it." "Landing successful," Rodriguez reported, knowing the Council was watching. "Beginning Phase 2 operations." In the observation vessel, silence reigned. The aliens stared at the screens, their expressions ranging from shock to disbelief to the beginnings of reluctant respect. "They survived the descent," Zorlak stated the obvious, his mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. "The real test begins now," Grohl countered. "They must exit their craft and function in the open environment." High Counselor Vex leaned forward, his crystalline form catching the light. "I believe we may have underestimated these humans." The interior of the landing craft was a chaos of flashing warning lights and blaring alarms. The hull integrity was failing faster than predicted, the corrosive atmosphere eating through the protective layers. "Move, people," Rodriguez ordered. "We have 7 minutes before this craft becomes our coffin." The team moved with practiced efficiency, despite the crushing gravity. Each suit was a self-contained environment, designed to withstand conditions that would kill an unprotected human in seconds. They looked like knights from Earth's medieval period, if knights had worn armor made of advanced composites and carried enough technology to outfit a small research station. "Equipment check," Rodriguez commanded as they prepared to open the airlock. "Sound off." "Environmental systems green," Tanaka reported. "Communications online," another team member confirmed. "Medical monitoring active," Al-Zahrani added. "Everyone's vitals are elevated but within acceptable parameters." Rodriguez nodded, her face barely visible through the reinforced visor of her helmet. "Remember your training. Short, efficient movements conserve energy. The gravity will exhaust you faster than you expect." She moved to the airlock controls, preparing for atmospheric exposure, equalizing pressure. The team braced themselves. As the airlock began its cycle, even through their advanced suits, they could hear the howling of the toxic winds outside. "Airlock cycle complete," Rodriguez announced. "I'll take point. Williams, you're on rear guard. Everyone else, maintain formation and begin equipment deployment the moment we reach the designated site." The outer door slid open, revealing the hellscape of Nexus 9 in all its terrifying glory. The sky was a roiling mass of crimson and black clouds, occasionally split by lightning that arced between the ground and atmosphere. The landscape was dominated by sharp, glassy rock formations that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. In the distance, a geyser of superheated gas erupted, sending a plume of toxic vapor hundreds of meters into the air. Rodriguez took the first step, onto the surface, her boot sinking slightly into what appeared to be a mixture of obsidian sand and some kind of metallic compound. The suit immediately registered the external conditions. Gravity 3.2 times Earth normal, temperature 347 degrees Celsius, radiation levels that would kill an unprotected human in minutes, atmospheric pressure crushing enough to collapse lungs. "I'm on the surface," she reported, her voice steady despite the strain evident in her movements. "Suit is holding, beginning perimeter assessment." One by one, the team followed her out, each moving carefully in the crushing gravity. Their movements were deliberate, almost robotic, as they conserved energy while deploying their equipment. "Establishing base perimeter," Williams called out, placing marker beacons that would help them navigate in the swirling atmospheric conditions. Dr. Al-Zahrani began setting up the environmental monitoring station, her movements slowed by both the gravity and the need for precision. "Initial readings confirm our models. This place is actively trying to kill us in at least 7 different ways." "Just 7?" quipped a team member. "Seems like a vacation compared to that moon of Jupiter last year." A few chuckles came through the comm system, the gallows humor, a testament to the team's experience with extreme environments. Suddenly the ground beneath them trembled, not the subtle vibration they had expected from the planet's tectonic activity, but a violent shudder that sent several team members to their knees despite the stabilizers in their suits. "Seismic event," Tanaka warned, checking his instruments. "Magnitude approximately 8.7 on the Richter scale." "Secure all equipment," Rodriguez ordered. "Form up on my position." The team scrambled to comply, but the quake intensified. A fissure opened in the ground near the landing craft, venting superheated gas that glowed an eerie blue. The craft itself began to list as one landing strut sank into the suddenly unstable ground. "The craft is compromised," Williams reported, his voice tight. "We're losing our exit strategy." Before Rodriguez could respond, a section of the plateau simply collapsed, taking 2 team members with it. They fell, their suits' thrusters firing automatically to slow their descent, but the crushing gravity made the system struggle. "Chen and Kowalski are down," Al-Zahrani shouted. "Biometrics show they're alive, but their suits sustained damage." Rodriguez didn't hesitate. "Williams, Tanaka, with me. We're going after them. The rest of you secure what equipment you can and establish the emergency shelter." This just became a rescue operation. As she moved toward the edge of the newly formed chasm, the external cameras on her suit captured the scene for the watching council members, a human in an advanced suit, moving with determination across a landscape that should have been impossible to traverse, heading toward certain danger to rescue her team members. In the observation vessel, The aliens watched in stunned silence. "They should retreat to their craft," Trelia said, her voice barely audible. "Attempt emergency extraction." "Their craft is failing," Zorlak pointed out, "and they will not abandon their own." High Councillor Vex's crystalline form pulsed with a new color, a deep purple that none of the humans would have recognized as profound respect. "No," he said quietly, "they will not." The edge of the chasm yawned before Rodriguez like the maw of some primordial beast. Superheated gases vented from the newly formed crevice, creating an eerie blue glow that illuminated the jagged obsidian walls. Far below, at least 300 meters down, she could make out the faint emergency beacons from Chen and Kowalski's damaged suits. "Vitals?" she demanded, not taking her eyes off the chasm. Dr. Alzarani's voice came through the comm, tense but professional. "Chen showing elevated heart rate and signs of a concussion. Kowalski has a fractured femur and possible internal bleeding. Their suit integrity is compromised. Environmental systems at 62% and 47% respectively. They have less than 30 minutes before atmospheric exposure reaches lethal levels." Rodriguez processed this information in seconds. "Williams, what's our descent option?" The Major was already scanning the chasm walls with a specialized sensor. "Standard rappelling is suicide. The rock face is unstable, and the atmospheric corrosion would eat through our cables in minutes. Jetpacks are marginally functional in this gravity, but the crosswinds in the chasm would smash us against the walls. So we need a third option," Rodriguez said calmly, as if discussing a training exercise. Dr. Tanaka had been silent, his fingers dancing across his wrist computer. "Captain, I may have something. The seismic event released a significant amount of thermal energy. The air currents in the chasm are forming a semi-stable updraft pattern." "You're suggesting we ride the thermals?" Williams asked incredulously. "Not exactly," Tanaka replied. "But if we modify our suit's shield generators to create a parabolic field beneath us, essentially a heat-resistant parachute, we could control our descent using the updrafts." Rodriguez nodded. "Like thermal soaring, but in reverse. Do it." While Tanaka made the necessary modifications to their suits, Rodriguez contacted the rest of the team. "Base camp status? Emergency shelter deployed at 60%, came the response. "We've secured most of the critical equipment, but the landing craft is failing rapidly. Hull breach estimated in 12 minutes. Understood. Continue setup and prepare the medical bay. We'll need it when we return with Chen and Kowalski." In the observation vessel, the alien representatives watched in stunned silence as the humans worked. What had seemed like certain death was being treated as a technical problem to be solved. "They should be retreating," Trelia said, her fins rippling with agitation. "The logical course is to save those who can be saved." "Their behavior defies logic," agreed Grohl, "yet I find myself curious to see what they will attempt." High Councillor Vex remained silent, his crystalline form pulsing with that same deep purple hue. Back on the surface, Tanaka had completed the modifications. The field generators are reprogrammed. In theory, this should work, but I must emphasize that we've never tested this configuration in conditions even remotely this extreme. "First time for everything," Rodriguez said. She activated her suits, enhanced sensor array, and studied the chasm's air currents. "I can see the thermal patterns. Williams, you take point. I'll follow, then Tanaka." Williams nodded, his face set in grim determination behind his visor. He stepped to the edge of the chasm, activated the modified shield generator, and jumped. For a heart-stopping moment, he plummeted like a stone, the crushing gravity of Nexus 9, pulling him down at an alarming rate. Then the shield generator engaged, creating a shimmering parabolic field beneath him. The superheated updrafts caught the field, and his descent slowed dramatically. Using subtle shifts in the field's configuration, Williams began to navigate the thermal currents like a skydiver riding the wind. "It's working," he called over the comm. "The controls are sensitive but manageable. Follow my descent path. I'm mapping the most stable currents." Rodriguez and Tanaka followed, leaping into the abyss one after the other. The sensation was unlike anything they had experienced before, a controlled fall through a maelstrom of toxic gases and electromagnetic disturbances, with the crushing gravity constantly threatening to overwhelm their improvised system. As they descended, the true horror of Nexus 9's environment became even more apparent. The chasm walls were not static, but seemed almost alive, with rivulets of molten material flowing through cracks in the obsidian. Occasionally, pockets of gas would ignite spontaneously, creating brief but intense flares of heat and light. Radiation. Levels increasing, Tanaka warned. Our suits are compensating, but we should minimize exposure time. After what seemed like an eternity, but was actually less than 4 minutes, they reached the bottom of the chasm. The ground here was even more unstable, a mixture of obsidian sand and some kind of semi-liquid metallic substance that rippled with the planet's constant seismic activity. Chen and Kowalski had landed on a relatively stable outcropping of rock. Their suits were visibly damaged. Chen's helmet showed a hairline fracture that the suit's self-repair systems were struggling to seal, while Kowalski's left leg was bent at an unnatural angle. The suit's exoskeleton locked to create a makeshift splint. "About time you showed up," Kowalski managed through gritted teeth, his attempt at humor belied by the pain in his voice. "Rescue service is a little slow in Class 15 environments," Rodriguez replied, kneeling beside him to assess the damage. "How bad?" "The suit's medical system has administered pain management and coagulants," he reported, "but I won't be running any marathons." Chen was semi-conscious, her eyes unfocused. "The readings," she mumbled. "You need to see—" Williams was already checking Chen's suit computer. "She managed to take some scans during the fall. Captain, you need to see this." Rodriguez moved to his side, and her eyes widened as she saw the data. "Is this accurate?" "Triple verified by the suit's sensors," Williams confirmed. "The Quantium-40 deposits are far larger than our initial scans indicated. And there's something else. The mineral composition is unlike anything we've seen before. It's reacting to the environment." Tanaka joined them, his scientific curiosity overriding even the danger of their situation. "The Quantium-40 appears to be in a state of quantum flux, possibly due to the extreme conditions. It's not just a static deposit, it's an active system." "Can we still extract it?" Rodriguez asked. "Yes, but conventional mining methods would be ineffective," Tanaka replied. "We would need to harmonize with the quantum state." Rodriguez made a quick decision. "Change of plans. Williams, you and I will get Chen and Kowalski back to the surface. Tanaka, take samples and as much data as you can. We need to understand what we're dealing with." As Williams prepared Chen for transport, Rodriguez activated her comlink to the base camp. "We need a medical extraction team ready at the chasm edge with stabilization equipment, and I want our quantum resonance scanner recalibrated immediately." "Understood, Captain," came the response. "But we have another problem. The seismic activity is increasing across the entire region. We're detecting a major event building approximately 20 kilometers to the east. Time frame? Less than 2 hours until it hits our position. And Captain, it's at least an order of magnitude larger than what caused the chasm." Rodriguez absorbed this news without visible reaction. "Acknowledged. Prepare for emergency protocols. We're coming up." The ascent proved even more challenging than the descent. With 2 injured team members, they couldn't use the thermal soaring technique. Instead, they had to rely on their suit's emergency thrusters, which struggled against Nexus 9's crushing gravity. "Divert power from non-essential systems," Rodriguez ordered as they began the slow climb. "Life support, communications, and propulsion only." The suit's displays dimmed as power was rerouted. The climb was agonizingly slow. Each meter gained a victory against the planet's attempt to pull them back down. Halfway up, Chen regained full consciousness. "Captain," she gasped, "the Quantium-40. It's not just a resource. It's responding to the planet's energy patterns, almost like it's alive." "Save your strength," Rodriguez told her. "Tanaka's collecting data. We'll figure it out once we're back on the surface." After nearly 15 minutes of grueling ascent, they finally reached the top of the chasm. The rest of the team was waiting with a makeshift medical station. Dr. Al-Zarani immediately took charge of the injured team members, her movements efficient despite the crushing gravity. Get them stabilized and into the shelter, Rodriguez ordered. Tanaka, what did you find? The scientist was already connecting his suit's computer to their main system, downloading the data he had collected. It's remarkable, Captain. The Quantium-40 exists in a state of quantum superposition, simultaneously solid and energy. The planet's extreme conditions, the radiation, the pressure, the electromagnetic fields, they're all part of a complex system that maintains this state. Can we extract it? Rodriguez asked again, focusing on the practical question. Not with conventional methods, Tanaka replied. But I believe we can use quantum entanglement to essentially convince a portion of the Quantium-40 to maintain its state outside of the planet's influence. Williams, who had been monitoring the base camp's sensors, interrupted. Captain, the seismic event is accelerating. New estimate gives us less than 1 hour. Rodriguez made another quick decision. Tanaka, you have 30 minutes to develop an extraction method. Williams, get the emergency shelter fully operational and prepare for the worst of the seismic event. Al-Zahrani, I need Chen and Kowalski stable enough to move if necessary. As the team dispersed to their tasks, Rodriguez took a moment to survey their situation. The landing craft was now clearly failing, its hull visibly dissolving under the corrosive atmosphere. The emergency shelter, a dome-like structure made of the same advanced materials as their suits, was their only protection now. Around them, the hellish landscape of Nexus 9 seemed to be growing even more unstable, with increased venting of toxic gases and more frequent tremors. In the observation vessel, the alien representatives had abandoned any pretense of detachment. They were clustered around the viewing screens, watching the humans with a mixture of disbelief and growing respect. They should be dead, Grohl stated flatly. By any reasonable assessment, they should have perished in the initial landing, let alone the rescue operation. Their technology is impressive, Zorlak admitted, but it's more than that. Their response to crisis is unusual. Where most species would retreat, they advance. Where others would abandon the fallen, they risk everything for rescue. High Counselor Vex finally spoke. We have misunderstood these humans from the beginning. We judge them by their physical limitations, their need for specific atmospheric conditions, their relatively fragile bodies, but their strength lies elsewhere. In their technology, asked Trelia. No, Vex replied, in their minds, in their refusal to accept limitations, in their ability to adapt not just over evolutionary timescales, but in moments of crisis. Back on the surface, Tanaka had converted part of the emergency shelter into an impromptu laboratory. Using components from their scientific equipment, he had constructed what looked like a bizarre hybrid of a quantum computer and a mining drill. I call it a quantum resonance extractor, he explained to Rodriguez. It creates a field that matches the quantum state of the Quantium-40, essentially creating a bubble of Nexus 9's conditions that we can control and eventually phase out. Will it work? Rodriguez asked. In theory, yes. In practice, Tanaka shrugged. We won't know until we try. How close do we need to be to the main deposit? Tanaka hesitated. Ideally, directly above it. The largest concentration is approximately 2 kilometers from here beneath the surface. Rodriguez checked the seismic monitors. The epicenter of the coming event is in the opposite direction. We might have a window to reach the deposit and begin extraction before it hits. Captain, Williams interjected, moving our entire operation 2 kilometers in these conditions, with 2 injured team members. We don't move everyone, Rodriguez decided. Tanaka and I will take the extractor to the deposit site. The rest of you complete the shelter preparations and be ready to ride out the seismic event. Before anyone could object, the ground beneath them shuddered violently. Not just a tremor, but a sustained movement that sent equipment sliding across. The shelter floor. It's starting early, Williams reported, checking the sensors. The seismic wave patterns are changing, becoming more complex. Outside the shelter, the landscape was transforming. Fissures opened across the plateau, venting superheated gases. The obsidian ground began to flow in places, like black glass melting under an invisible flame. In the distance, a mountain-sized formation suddenly collapsed, sending a plume of debris kilometers into the toxic atmosphere. Change of plans, Rodriguez announced. We don't go to the Quantium-40, we bring it to us. That's not possible with this equipment, Tanaka objected. Then we modify the equipment, Rodriguez replied simply. The planet's tectonic activity is increasing. If these seismic events are affecting the Quantium-40's quantum state, maybe we can use that. Tanaka's eyes widened as he understood. You want to use the planet's own energy to power the extraction. Exactly. Can you reconfigure the extractor to tap into the seismic energy? For a moment, Tanaka was silent, his mind racing through calculations and possibilities. Then he nodded. Yes, we would need to deploy seismic receivers at specific points around the shelter, creating a resonance network that focuses the energy. Do it, Rodriguez ordered. Williams, I need 4 team members in suits ready to deploy the receivers. As the team prepared for this new plan, Dr. Al-Zarani approached Rodriguez. Chen is stable, but Kowalski's condition is deteriorating. The suit's medical systems can only do so much. Rodriguez's expression hardened. Then we need to succeed quickly. How long can he last? 6 hours, maybe less. We'll be done in 3, Rodriguez promised. Within 20 minutes, the team had deployed the seismic receivers in a precise pattern around their shelter. Each receiver was anchored deep into the unstable ground, designed to channel the planet's tectonic energy toward the central point where Tanaka had set up the modified quantum resonance extractor. The network is active, Tanaka reported. As the seismic energy increases, the receivers will amplify and focus it through these conduits. He pointed to a series of crystalline rods that connected the receivers to the extractor. And that will pull the Quantium-40 to us? Williams asked skeptically. Not exactly, Tanaka explained. It will create a quantum entanglement field that matches the state of the Quantium-40. In essence, we're creating a quantum magnet that will draw a portion of the Quantium-40 into our containment vessel. Rodriguez nodded. How long until... She was interrupted by a tremor so violent that even their stabilized shelter shifted several meters. Outside, the landscape was coming apart. The plateau they had landed on was breaking into massive chunks, some rising, others sinking into newly formed chasms. It's happening! Tanaka shouted over the roar of the planet. The seismic energy is feeding into the network. The crystalline rods began to glow with an unearthly blue light. The quantum resonance extractor hummed, its components spinning and realigning as it processed the enormous energy flowing through the system. In the center of the device, a containment vessel, no larger than a basketball, pulsed with increasing brightness. It's working, Tanaka exclaimed, his scientific detachment momentarily forgotten in the excitement of discovery. The quantum entanglement field is stabilizing. We're getting a positive resonance with the Quantium-40 deposit. The shelter shook continuously now, the stabilizers barely keeping it from being torn apart. Outside, through the reinforced viewports, they could see Nexus 9 tearing itself apart in a display of raw planetary power that would have annihilated any unprotected observer. Energy levels are approaching critical, Williams warned, monitoring the shelter's systems. The stabilizers can't take much more of this. They don't need to, Tanaka replied, his eyes fixed on the containment vessel. The process is nearly complete. The Quantium-40 is responding to the entanglement field. Suddenly, the containment vessel flared with a light so intense that the shelter's automatic filters had to engage. When the light faded, the vessel contained what appeared to be a swirling mass of energy and solid matter, constantly shifting between states. We did it, Tanaka said quietly, almost reverently. Approximately 2 kilograms of Quantium-40 in a stable quantum state. 2 kilograms? Williams asked. That's all? 2 kilograms of Quantium-40 is enough to power a city for a year, Tanaka replied. And now that we've established the entanglement, we can repeat the process. Each extraction will be easier than the last. Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile. Begin the second extraction immediately. I want as much as we can safely contain, before we have to leave this hellhole. Over the next hour, as Nexus 9 convulsed around them, the team performed 3 more extractions. Each was more efficient than the last, as Tanaka refined the process based on the data they gathered. By the time the seismic event began to subside, they had collected nearly 10 kilograms of Quantium-40. more than enough to justify their mission and revolutionize human standing in the galactic community. As the violent shaking finally reduced to a more manageable level, Rodriguez gathered her team. Status report. The shelter held, Williams reported. Barely. Structural integrity is at 62%, but we're stable for now. Chen is fully conscious and recovering well, Al-Zahrani added. Kowalski is stabilized, but still critical. He needs proper medical facilities within the next 12 hours. The Quantium 40 is secure in the containment vessels, Tanaka concluded. All 4 samples are showing stable quantum states. We can transport them safely. Rodriguez nodded. Then it's time for the next phase. Our landing craft is gone, so we need an alternative extraction method. The emergency beacon, Williams suggested. Won't penetrate the atmospheric interference, Rodriguez shook her head. We need something stronger. She turned to Tanaka. Could we use some of the Quantium 40 to boost a signal through the atmosphere? The scientist considered this for a moment. Yes, a quantum-entangled communication system. We could use a small amount of the Quantium 40 to create a signal that would ignore conventional interference, but we would need to modify our communication array significantly. Do it, Rodriguez ordered. I want that signal ready in 2 hours. As Tanaka and several team members began working on the communication system, Rodriguez stepped outside the shelter to survey their situation. The landscape had changed dramatically. The plateau they had landed on was now a series of jagged islands amid a sea of flowing obsidian. The atmosphere seemed even more toxic, with new chemical compounds released by the seismic activity. Yet despite the hellish conditions, Rodriguez felt a sense of accomplishment. They had not only survived on a Class 15 planet, but had succeeded in their mission against all odds. They had pushed the boundaries of what was possible, adapting and innovating in ways that the Galactic Council had deemed impossible. In the observation vessel, the alien representatives were silent, their earlier skepticism replaced by a newfound respect. They succeeded, Zorlak stated, his mandibles clicking in agitation. Not only survived, but completed their objective. And they saved their fallen comrades, Trelia added softly, at great risk to themselves. High Councillor Vex's crystalline form pulsed with a rainbow of colors. I believe, he said slowly, that we have much to learn from these humans. Back on the surface, Rodriguez rejoined her team as Tanaka completed the modifications to their communication array. A small sample of the Quantium 40, no larger than a grain of rice, had been integrated into the system. The quantum entanglement should allow our signal to bypass the atmospheric interference, Tanaka explained. When activated, it will create a direct link to the Pathfinder in orbit. Do it, Rodriguez ordered. Tanaka activated the system. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the communication console lit up with an incoming transmission. Nexus 9 ground team, this is Pathfinder, came the relieved voice of their orbital support. We've been trying to reach you for hours. Your signal is coming through perfectly clear. Pathfinder, this is Captain Rodriguez, she responded. Mission accomplished. We have secured approximately 10 kilograms of Quantium 40 and require immediate extraction. 2 team members injured, 1 critical. There was a brief pause before the response came. Understood, Captain. Based on your signal, we're detecting a significant change in the planetary conditions following the seismic event. There's a temporary window of reduced electromagnetic interference. We can bring down the heavy shuttle in approximately 3 hours. Negative, Rodriguez replied firmly. Kowalski needs medical attention sooner than that. We'll use the emergency ascent pods. The emergency ascent pods were a last resort option, essentially reinforced escape capsules designed to reach orbit with minimal guidance systems. They were notoriously uncomfortable and risky, but they could get through the atmosphere in under 30 minutes. Captain, those pods weren't designed for Class 15 conditions, the Pathfinder officer objected. Neither were we, Rodriguez countered. Prepare for our arrival. We're launching in 1 hour. As she ended the transmission, Williams approached her. The pods will barely fit 1 person each, let alone our equipment and the Quantium 40. We'll modify them, Rodriguez said simply, as if suggesting a minor adjustment to a training exercise. Tanaka, can we use the quantum properties of the Quantium 40 to our advantage during ascent? The scientist considered this for a moment. Theoretically, yes. If we integrate small amounts into the pod's propulsion systems, we could create a quantum field that would reduce the effective mass of the pods during ascent. It would make them faster and more resistant to the atmospheric conditions. Do it, Rodriguez ordered. Al-Zarani, prepare Kowalski and Chen for transport. Everyone else, strip down the essential equipment to absolute minimum weight. The team moved with practiced efficiency, each person knowing their role. The emergency ascent pods, originally 6 sleek cylinders stored in a compartment of their now-destroyed landing craft, were salvaged and brought into the shelter. Under Tanaka's direction, they were modified with components from their scientific equipment and tiny samples of the Quantium-40. The modifications are complete, Tanaka reported after 40 intense minutes of work. Each pod can now carry 1 person plus approximately 15 kilograms of equipment. The quantum field should reduce effective mass by 60% during ascent, allowing for faster acceleration and reduced strain on the hull. Rodriguez nodded. Load the Quantium-40 containers into pods 1 and 2, Kowalski and Chen in 3 and 4, with Al-Zarani accompanying Kowalski. The rest of us will take the remaining pods with essential equipment and data. As the team prepared for departure, Rodriguez took a final look around the shelter that had protected them through conditions that should have been unsurvivable. Despite the damage and the danger, there was a sense of pride in what they had accomplished. 2 minutes to launch, Williams announced. All pods are reporting ready. The team members sealed themselves into their respective pods. Each was barely large enough for a single person, with just enough room for their assigned equipment or, in Kowalski's case, medical support systems. The interior was Spartan. A padded seat, basic controls, and a small viewport. Launch sequence initiated, Rodriguez announced over the comm. Remember, maintain the ascent corridor exactly as planned. The atmospheric conditions are still extreme, and deviation could be fatal. One by one, the pods were moved to the launch area, a cleared space outside the shelter. The launch system was simple but effective. A magnetic accelerator would provide the initial thrust, after which the pod's own engines would take over. Launch in 3, 2, 1 mark. The first pod, containing one of the Quantium-40 containers, shot upward with surprising speed, the quantum field surrounding it, creating a visible distortion in the toxic atmosphere. The second followed moments later. Then the pods carrying the injured team members. Rodriguez was the last to launch, watching as her team ascended towards safety. Her pod shuddered as the magnetic accelerator fired, then she was pressed back into her seat as the engines engaged. Through the small viewport, she watched as the hellish landscape of Nexus 9 fell away beneath her. The ascent was violent, the pod buffeted by supersonic winds and electromagnetic disturbances. Warning lights flashed as the external temperature soared and radiation levels spiked. But the modifications held, the quantum field surrounding the pod allowing it to slip through the atmosphere with unprecedented efficiency. In less than 15 minutes, half the expected time, Rodriguez's pod broke through the upper atmosphere into the relative calm of space. Ahead, she could see the other pods already being recovered by the Pathfinder's retrieval drones. "Pathfinder, this is Rodriguez," she transmitted. "Final pod clear of atmosphere. Mission complete." As her pod was guided toward the waiting ship, Rodriguez allowed herself a moment of reflection. They had done the impossible, not just survived on a Class 15 planet, but thrived there, adapting to conditions that the Galactic Council had deemed unsurvivable for any species. And they had done it the human way, with ingenuity, determination, and an absolute refusal to accept limitations. In the observation vessel, the alien representatives watched in stunned silence as the last human pod was recovered by their ship. "They succeeded," Zorlak stated, his voice a mixture of disbelief and respect. "Complete mission success against all predictions." "Not just success," High Counselor Vex corrected. "They have redefined what we considered possible. The Council's understanding of Class 15 environments and of humans themselves must be re-evaluated." As the Pathfinder prepared to depart Nexus 9's orbit, a transmission came through from Captain Rodriguez to the observation vessel. "Counselor Vex," she said, her face appearing on their main screen, tired but triumphant. "I trust the Council. found our demonstration informative. Vex's crystalline form pulsed with colors that, had Rodriguez been able to interpret them, would have indicated profound respect. Captain Rodriguez, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I extend our sincere congratulations on your unprecedented achievement. You have accomplished what we believed to be impossible. Rodriguez smiled slightly. For humans, Counselor, impossible is just another problem to solve. We look forward to presenting our findings and our Quantium 40 to the full Council upon our return. As the transmission ended, Vex turned to his fellow representatives. I believe, he said slowly, that the addition of humans to our galactic community may prove to be more significant than any of us anticipated. Aboard the Pathfinder, Rodriguez made her way to the medical bay, where Kowalski and Chen were already receiving treatment. Dr. Al-Zahrani looked up as she entered. They'll both make a full recovery, she reported with a smile. Kowalski's already asking when we can go back. Rodriguez shook her head in amused disbelief. Tell him the next Class 15 planet is his to lead. As she left the medical bay, Rodriguez found Tanaka and Williams waiting for her in the corridor. The Quantium 40 is secure in the containment lab, Tanaka reported. All samples are stable and showing even more interesting properties than we initially observed. This single mission has advanced our understanding of quantum physics by decades. And the Council is in an uproar, Williams added with a grin. Apparently, we've violated several laws of nature according to their scientific understanding. Rodriguez smiled, a real smile this time, not the tight, controlled expression she had maintained throughout the mission. Well, gentlemen, that's what humans do best. We break the rules, then rewrite them. As the Pathfinder accelerated away from Nexus 9, setting course for Earth, the hellish planet continued its violent existence behind them, but it was no longer a forbidden world, just another challenge that humans had faced and overcome. For the crew of the Pathfinder, a Class 15 planet had indeed proven to be just a walk in the park, an extremely dangerous, nearly lethal park, but conquerable nonetheless, and in the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, a new respect for humanity was about to be born. Hey there, what do you think of the story so far? These humans are really surprising those aliens, aren't they? If you're enjoying it, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. It helps a ton. Now, let's get back to our adventure. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so crowded. Representatives from every member species packed the tiered seating, with even more observers crowding the viewing galleries above. News of the human expedition to Nexus 9 had spread throughout the galactic community, and no one wanted to miss what promised to be a historic session. High Counselor Vex stood at the central podium, his crystalline form pulsing with formal blue light. This emergency session of the Galactic Council is now in session. As you are all aware, recent events have necessitated a re-evaluation of certain fundamental assumptions held by this body. A murmur ran through the assembled representatives. Many had already viewed the recordings from the observation vessel, but rumors and speculation had run rampant in the 3 days since the human team had returned from Nexus 9. I call forward Captain Elena Rodriguez of Earth's Special Environments Corps to present her report, Vex announced. Rodriguez strode into the chamber, flanked by Dr. Tanaka and Major Williams. She had traded her environmental suit for a crisp military dress uniform adorned with a modest collection of medals and commendations. Despite the formal attire, her face still bore the weathered look of someone who had stared death in the face and refused to blink. Behind them, 2 technicians carefully guided a hovering platform that carried 4 containment vessels. Inside each, the Quantium 40 samples swirled in their quantum state, casting an ethereal blue glow across the chamber. Councilors, representatives, honored guests, Rodriguez began, her voice steady and confident. 3 days ago, my team successfully completed a mission to the surface of Nexus 9, classified as a Class 15 planet under the Universal Planetary Classification System. We remained on the surface for approximately 7 hours, during which we conducted scientific observations, performed emergency rescue operations, and extracted 10 kilograms of Quantium 40 in a stable quantum state. She gestured to the containment vessels. We present these samples to the Council as proof of our success and as a resource for the benefit of all galactic citizens. Ambassador Grohl of the Taurian hegemony rose from his seat, his massive form towering over the other representatives. This is unprecedented. No species has ever survived direct exposure to a Class 15 environment, let alone conducted complex operations. We demand a full explanation of how this was accomplished. Rodriguez nodded to Dr. Tanaka, who stepped forward. The scientist activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber with detailed schematics of their equipment, biological data from the team members, and environmental readings from Nexus 9. Our success can be attributed to 3 key factors, Tanaka explained. First, our advanced environmental suits, which incorporated multiple redundant systems and adaptive materials designed specifically for extreme conditions. Second, our physiological preparations, including genetic optimizations and chemical compounds that enhanced our natural resilience. And third, our methodology, specifically our approach to problem-solving in crisis situations. Ambassador, Trelia's fins rippled with skepticism. These technological achievements are impressive, but they do not explain how your biological systems withstood conditions that should have been lethal even with protection. The gravitational forces alone should have crushed your internal organs. Major Williams stepped forward. With respect, Ambassador, humans evolved on a world that many species would consider hostile. Earth has regions that approach Class 10 or 11 conditions, from the crushing depths of our oceans to the oxygen-deprived peaks of our highest mountains, from the scorching heat of our deserts to the freezing wastes of our polar regions. Our species has always pushed into these environments, adapting and surviving where logic says we shouldn't. Furthermore, Rodriguez added, human physiology possesses certain advantages that we've only recently begun to fully understand. Our endurance, our thermal regulation, our ability to function under varying gravitational conditions, these aren't just technological achievements, but biological adaptations refined over millennia of evolution on a challenging world. High Counselor. Vex raised a crystalline appendage, silencing the growing murmurs. Captain Rodriguez, the Council has reviewed the complete sensor logs from both your team and our observation vessel. What is perhaps most remarkable is not just your survival but your response to crisis. When faced with the seismic event and the rescue situation, your team did not retreat but advanced. Can you explain this approach? Rodriguez's expression remained neutral, but there was a hint of pride in her eyes. Counselor, humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. When faced with seemingly impossible situations, we don't see only the danger, we see opportunities for innovation. The seismic event that threatened to destroy us became the power source for our Quantium-40 extraction. The chasm that separated us from our injured team members became a pathway for testing new descent technologies. She paused, looking around the chamber. This isn't unique to my team. It's a fundamental aspect of human nature. Throughout our history, our greatest advances have come in response to our greatest challenges. Ambassador Zorlak stepped forward, his mandibles clicking thoughtfully. The Council has long classified planets based on environmental parameters alone. Your success suggests this approach may be incomplete. It is not merely incomplete, came a new voice. Dr. Alzarani entered the chamber, supporting Specialist Chen, who still showed signs of her injuries, but insisted on walking under her own power. It fails to account for adaptability as a survival trait. Chen approached the central podium, her movements careful but determined. While on the surface of Nexus 9, I discovered something remarkable about the Quantium-40 deposits. They exist in a state of quantum flux, constantly adapting to the extreme conditions around them. In many ways, this mirrors how humans approach hostile environments, not with rigid resistance but with dynamic adaptation. Dr. Tanaka expanded the holographic display to show the quantum readings from the Quantium-40 samples. The mineral's ability to exist in multiple quantum states simultaneously allows it to survive conditions that would destroy any static material. Our success in extracting it came when we stopped trying to force it into our containment systems and instead adapted our systems to harmonize with its natural state. High Counselor Vex's crystalline form pulsed with a thoughtful purple hue. You are suggesting a parallel between your species' approach and the very nature of the resource you sought. Exactly, Rodriguez confirmed, and I believe this has implications beyond Nexus 9. The Council's classification system is based on the assumption that environments must conform to life rather than life adapting to environments. Our experience suggests otherwise. A thoughtful silence fell over the chamber as the representatives considered the implications. Finally, Ambassador Chen of Earth rose from her seat among the diplomatic corps. High Counselor, honored representatives, I propose that in light of these findings, the Council establish a joint scientific commission to re-evaluate the universal planetary classification system. This should include not only environmental parameters, but also adaptability factors for different species. Zorlak's compound eyes gleamed with interest. I second this proposal. The scientific implications alone warrant further investigation. High Counselor Vex turned to the Assembly. The proposal has been made and seconded. The Council will vote. The vote was not unanimous. Several species with rigid biological requirements objected, but the overwhelming majority approved the formation of the Commission. As the formal proceedings concluded, representatives crowded around the human team, examining the Quantium-40 samples and peppering them with questions about their experience. Rodriguez found herself approached by High Counselor Vex in a relatively quiet corner of the chamber. "Captain," the crystalline being said, his form pulsing with colors that Rodriguez was beginning to recognize as respect. "I must confess that I did not expect your team to return from Nexus 9. I believed I was sending you to your deaths." Rodriguez smiled slightly. "Many have made that mistake before, Counselor." "Indeed, and now I find myself wondering what other assumptions we have made about your species might be equally flawed." Vex's form shifted, the crystalline structure realigning into a more formal configuration. "The Council has voted to award your team the Order of Galactic Merit, our highest honor for scientific achievement, but beyond that, we would like to offer Earth an opportunity." "What kind of opportunity?" "There are 27 worlds classified as Class 15 in known space. Many contain resources vital to the continued development of our civilization. We propose that Earth establish a specialized division of your Special Environments Corps dedicated to exploration and resource extraction on these worlds." Rodriguez considered this for a moment. "That would significantly elevate Earth's standing in the galactic community. It would recognize your unique capabilities," Vex corrected. "Not as a favor, but as an acknowledgement of what you have proven you can do." Before Rodriguez could respond, Major Williams approached, a data tablet in hand. "Captain, sorry to interrupt, but you'll want to see this. The preliminary analysis of the Quantium-40 we extracted shows properties we didn't detect on the surface. The quantum resonance patterns suggest applications beyond power generation, possibly including FTL drive enhancements that could reduce travel times by up to 60%. Rodriguez's eyes widened slightly. "Have you informed Ambassador Chen? She's reviewing the data now with Dr. Tanaka. If these findings hold up, the Quantium-40 from Nexus 9 alone could revolutionize interstellar travel." High Counselor Vex's crystalline structure, vibrated in what Rodriguez had learned, was their equivalent of a thoughtful hum. "It seems your mission continues to exceed expectations, Captain." "That's what humans do, Counselor," Rodriguez replied, with a small smile. "We make a habit of it." 3 months later, Rodriguez stood in a new facility on the outskirts of Geneva, watching as recruits for the newly formed Extreme Environment Exploration Division ran training exercises in a massive simulator designed to replicate Class 15 conditions. Dr. Tanaka approached, carrying a tablet with the latest data. "The second expedition to Nexus 9 just reported in. They've established a permanent extraction facility and have already processed 15 kilograms of Quantium-40. The quantum shielding technology we developed is working perfectly." Rodriguez nodded, watching as a team of recruits successfully navigated a simulated seismic event while maintaining their extraction equipment. And the Council's reclassification project? Proceeding faster than expected. They've already reclassified 3 planets from Class 15 to what they're now calling Class H, for human accessible. There's talk of establishing joint research stations on at least 2 of them within the year. Williams joined them, now wearing the insignia of a colonel. The Taurians are still complaining, but even they've requested access to our environmental suit designs. Apparently there's a moon in their home system with valuable minerals that they've never been able to access. And they're willing to trade for the technology? Rodriguez asked. Williams grinned. Better than that. They're requesting human advisors to help train their mining teams. Ambassador Chen is negotiating the details now. Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile of satisfaction. In just 3 months, humanity's standing in the galactic community had transformed from newest members to essential partners. The Quantium-40 from Nexus 9 had already been incorporated into new drive systems that were reducing travel times across the galaxy, and human environmental technologies were being adapted for use by a dozen different species. Captain Rodriguez, a young lieutenant, approached, saluting crisply. The new recruits have completed their initial training cycle. They're ready for your address. Rodriguez nodded and followed the lieutenant to a large briefing room where over 100 men and women in training uniforms sat at attention. These were the best of the best, scientists, engineers, soldiers, and explorers who had volunteered for what was still considered the most dangerous assignment in human space. As she took the podium, Rodriguez looked out at their eager faces. Some showed nervousness, others determination, but all shared the same fundamental human quality that had made the Nexus 9 mission a success: the refusal to accept limitations. 3 months ago, she began, I stood on the surface of a world that the combined wisdom of the Galactic Council had deemed impossible to survive. Today we have a permanent outpost there. Tomorrow, who knows? There are 26 more Class 15 planets waiting for us, each with its own challenges, its own resources, its own secrets to unlock. She gestured to a large display showing the swirling hellscape of Nexus 9. This is what the rest of the galaxy calls impossible. This is what they run from. This is what they fear. She paused, letting her gaze sweep across the room. But for humans, it's just another problem to solve. Just another environment to adapt to. Just another walk in the park. A murmur of appreciation ran through the recruits, some smiling at the reference to their division's unofficial motto. You've been selected because you embody the qualities that make humanity unique in the galaxy: our adaptability, our creativity, under pressure, our refusal to accept defeat. In the coming months, you'll be deployed to worlds that no other species has ever set foot on. You'll face conditions that defy imagination. You'll be asked to do the impossible repeatedly. Rodriguez's expression softened slightly. But remember this, you are human. The impossible is your natural habitat. Class 15 planets? For us, they're just a walk in the park. As the recruits rose to their feet in applause, Rodriguez felt a sense of pride, not just in what they had accomplished, but in what was yet to come. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not despite their challenges, but because of them. Their homeworld had forged them into a species uniquely qualified to go where others could not, to thrive where others would perish. Later that evening, Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the facility, looking up at the stars. Somewhere, out there, teams of humans were preparing to venture onto worlds that had been deemed off-limits for millennia. They would face dangers beyond imagination, challenges that would push the limits of technology and human endurance, and they would succeed because that's what humans do. A notification chimed on her personal device. It was a message from High Counselor Vex, containing preliminary data on a newly discovered planet at the edge of explored space. The environmental readings were off the charts: gravity, radiation, atmospheric toxicity, all exceeding even Nexus 9's hellish conditions. At the bottom of the report was a simple note: classification pending, but preliminary designation is Class 16. Resources unknown, but anomalous energy signatures detected. Thought you might be interested. Rodriguez smiled as she read the message. Class 16. They'd have to invent new equipment, new techniques, new approaches. It would be dangerous, possibly even more lethal than Nexus 9. Her fingers moved across the device as she composed her reply. Interested? Absolutely. After all, it's just another walk in the park. So did you enjoy this story of humans showing what they're capable of? Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our upcoming stories. There's much more to come. See you next time, everyone.